There is someone who can take, and I just dated myself because I just had a thought. Literally, he can take white out, and he can go, and he can sit there and go either interim or caretaker, whatever it was on the business card. He can sit there and white that out because that doesn't apply anymore. Richard Dixon, no longer interim, no longer caretaker. You are the head coach of Chattanooga FC. Congratulations. Welcome to the morning show. I know you're on the hop this morning too.
Thank you, John. Yeah, thank you for having me.
So how does it feel?
Yeah, it feels good. It's exciting. Obviously, been working here for a while as a player and as a coach, as an assistant coach and a performance director. And to come from playing, hearing about the club back in my college days when my old coach Bill Elliott used to be the coach here. Wanted to get me to come and play for CFC in the summer, but couldn't because I was playing in the USL. To obviously signing on for the club in 2020 and playing for 4 seasons, to now come full circle to be the head coach. It's a very exciting moment, and I'm extremely humbled to step into this role.
Yeah, and I mean, what soccer means to the Southeast because from your time in college when you were in Argo, and you've been, let me see if I can remember all the different places that you've played here in the Southeast. Baton Rouge. I want to say, where was Bria? Were they in Clinton?
Yeah, Mississippi, yes, and yeah.
I was trying to remember what city they were because they've been in various.
Jackson.
So, okay,
yeah.
Okay. So we'll go Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi. You sat down for literally a cup of coffee in Panama City. Tampa, Charlotte, and then you've spent some time in St. Louis, and then obviously at OKC, and then you were there in Chattanooga. What has it been like for you to see the game grow? Just period, but obviously you've seen it in a bunch of different pockets in the Southeast. But what's it been like for you to see it grow as a player, now as a coach, and know that the expectation levels are different when it comes to having a soccer franchise that happens to be based in the Southeast?
That's I'm really impressed with the research that you've done. That's very impressive. But I think for me, coming to the U.S., obviously I came over from Jamaica when I was 16 years old and finished high school in South Florida. Then went to the University of West Florida. It was kind of difficult, not difficult, but different. I would say the soccer culture. You look at youth soccer in Jamaica and college soccer, it's a lot different than it is here. But then to step into the professional game whenever there was only a few leagues, when I played in the USL in the early days, it was just the MLS and the USL, and then the NASL came back online. So to see kind of the evolution of the game in the US in general, but then the Southeast, it's been incredible. You go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you're getting decent crowds, and then you go to Mississippi, places that I've never been, and I knew nothing about. And you hear some stuff, you hear, bad things, and a lot of these cities get a lot of bad reputation. But when I've gone into these cities and play and represented, I've had nothing but good things to say. I've met some amazing people in Baton Rouge and Mississippi, and when I played for Bria. And Tampa, when I played for VSI there my first year. Charlotte was a little bit different with it being a missionary. And so that was a very unique environment in itself. And I learned a lot there. Then when I went to the St. Louis, that kind of was an eye opener for me to see a second division club, being so well supported. The St. Hooligans, they would come out and they'll pack the stadium out every single week. They'll wave flags, they'll beat drums, they'll heckle the opponent. And they were there in the snow, they were there in the heat, they were there in all elements. So it was a very good experience there. And then obviously in OKC, similar setup there, to then come back to the Southeast. And then being in Chattanooga, a place that I've been hearing about for several years, and that I've seen on TV, especially when they got the 18,500. Just knowing that, man, this is for an amateur team to be getting that crowd is unbelievable. But then to come in and to feel it, and to be a part of it is I mean, words can't explain. So it's I think when you come in, you realize that this is a soccer city. This is a soccer city, and the fans they come and they support you through thick and thin. They know the game, they know their stuff, right? They know when you don't play well. They know when you escape by the skin of the teeth, and so it's a good city to be in because it just continues to grow, and the fans, they continue to push the envelope as well, which we appreciate.
Yeah, and the reason I brought all that up is because you get it. You get what Chattanooga is. You know what it means to everyone there from the time that you've spent there as a player, and now you're there as the head coach. Capital H, capital C. It's not predicate, but the beginning. There's no adjective up front to explain anything else. How long did it take you to become you as a coach? Because I know how you were as a player, but formulate who you are as a coach, or is that still a work in progress, trying to figure out who you are and how you want to present things and your style specifically on the touchline?
Yeah, I think I try to be. It's a work in progress, I would say. It's a difficult league to play in, the MLS Next Pro, because you're playing against really talented young professionals. You're playing against 17 and 18-year-olds that are going to be in the MLS in a year or two. They're representing their youth national teams. They're going to be full national team players in a couple of years, and so it's a difficult league whenever you set up for one thing and you can show up on the weekend and you're playing against 5 first team players as well. And so I think continuing to establish and build our identity is important, but also being a little bit pragmatic in the way that we approach games. And so I would say, if I were to consider my playing style and my philosophy, 18 months ago, I'm possession orientated. I want to dominate possession of the ball. I want to press high. I want to regain possession quickly, and I want to keep the ball in the attacking third, and create chances. Whereas now you realize you play in a league that, most of these players, they've been in the youth system, they've been in the academies for several years, and they've been playing with each other, for several years as well. And these clubs, they don't change their model, and they don't change for anybody. So these clubs, they keep getting better and better and better, which is really good. But we don't have that luxury. We have players that they come in for a year or maybe 2 years, 3 years if guys are lucky. And so you're always having to reshape and refine your model and how you approach the game and how you approach each weekend. So I would say for me as a person, I've evolved a lot. I try to be consistent. I try to be honest with myself. I try to be honest with the people that I work with every single day. I try to take feedback and implement it if I think it makes sense. And I'll say I'll continue to do that as a coach as well. I learn a lot from our guys here, the young ones, the older ones, the guys that have been around, the guys that are new to the club. And so I think it's just a good way to approach things, because like we know, football is mainly subjective, right? It's how you feel and how you see the game. Some people think possession is the right way to play. Some people think you can, it's direct. I think it all works. It's just, what is the problem that we're going to try to solve on the weekend, and we go from there.
Another couple of minutes here with Richard Dixon, who is head coach Chattanooga FC here at MLS Next Pro. I do have a weekend preview question coming up, because you got a big rivalry game coming up, and we'll be up there to broadcast that this weekend. I always like to ask this of new coaches. When you have a question about something, and it could be something logistics, it could be day-to-day operations, it could be how you view yourself on the touchline or on the practice pitch. When you have a question about being a coach, who is on your speed dial that you can sit there and know they'll pick up if you've got a question that it's really bugging the you-know-what out of you? Who can pick up that phone? Who's on your speed dial for you?
Yeah, that's a really good one. The last few months, I would say the last 12 months, I've had a lot of phone calls with Jeremy Allenbaugh, he's the president of the USL. Mm-hmm. He was also our general manager here, and I spent a good amount of time with him in St. Louis, so he's well experienced. He's been in different domains in soccer as a coach, as a general manager, and now the president of USL. So he's very knowledgeable and gives me good advice. So I would say if I were to consider, a holistic approach, somebody that knows about, again, logistics and coaching and everything, it would be him. And the next would be Coach Elliott. He's a mentor of mine. He's very close to me. Obviously, has a lot of ties here as well. So I would say those are the two that would be at the top of my list.
What have you learned about yourself in this process this season as a coach for Chattanooga FC? What have you learned about yourself? Anything that you didn't know or that was reinforced?
Yeah, I would say that it's helpful to be calm and zoom out. I try to see the full picture before I make decisions, and I think that has helped a lot with how chaotic things have been this year. To go from that transition in the preseason to taking over, an entire team and staff and everything. The big thing for me was just to zoom out to see what were the problem areas and what are the areas that we needed to prioritize right away. And then I think once you do that, you can make more informed decisions. And so, it's something that I've always done my entire life. And I found that being more intentional with it this year has been extremely helpful for me.
All right, this weekend, it is a knockdown, drag-out rivalry matchup with Atlanta United 2. And every time these two teams pair up at Fort Finley, it is half past beyond crazy. Something's going to happen, something's going to go down. What has study hall been like getting ready for this one, knowing that Friday you knocked off Inter Miami down there at the Erector set, you came back home? What's study hall like getting ready for this one?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because we obviously played them a few weeks ago. Like you said, it was a crazy game. We're up 3-0, conceded 4 in a row, and then came back in the dying minutes to tie the game and won the shootout. I think we walked away from that game not knowing how to feel, blew a 3-0 lead. We scored 2 own goals. But the guys did a very good job of fighting to the death to come back and tie the game and win the shootout. So there's a lot of positives there, but a lot of concerns as well. So for us, we're just focused on the details, on the things that cost us trouble down there, looking into their last few games to see how they have shifted and adjusted, and just making sure that we're ready for those things, but also making sure that we continue to progress our standards and our style of play here. The guys, I think they're in a really good place. They understand how we want to attack, how we want to defend. So, it's just refining things and focusing on the details of how we're going to approach Atlanta United this weekend.
7:03 kick at Fort Finley Saturday night. Well, we'll obviously be up there with that one for the broadcast on the 2 side of things. It's always great to see you, my friend, and congratulations on head coach Chattanooga FC. Richard, we'll see you this weekend. Thanks for always dropping by early in the morning here on the morning show.
Excellent, John. Thanks so much. Talk soon.
You got it. There he goes. And, see, he's off and running. He's going to go to practice and stuff. He's done.